I really didn't want to be the guy to make another Nintendo Switch 2 video that was full of rage, that was negative, that was trying to quote unquote grift on the controversy that's surrounding us about the reveal of this platform, the pricing, and all the other stuff. So believe you me, this is not it. But there are some more things that I got to point out that aren't just simply FUD. They got to make you think about the Switch 2, look into the reveal even further, and actually question this thing coming out now under all these circumstances. Is this good at all? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K, Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage, MM2K Gaming, back again with another episode of the Quick Dose. It's where we talk about the latest and greatest in the video gaming news. And man, oh man, do we have a thought-provoking one today, I feel. But before we get to that, hit that like button, subscribe, rock the bells, all that great stuff, all right? And then after we do this, I'm going to tell you how you can get access to an even deeper discussion around this and some motivating sources that helped me, really think about this over the weekend before I created this video. All right, but let's get into it. Okay. So the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal came and gone. A lot of people like myself saw that reveal and we were excited. Why? Because I think that the reveal, even though it didn't land perfectly with everybody, I think it hit its core demographic. I think the purpose of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch was to appeal to Nintendo stragglers like myself. All right. What do I mean? Well, my son has a Switch. He has a Switch, and I watch him play games, and I look at the games. I'm like, you know what? Those games look cool. I'll see ads for a Nintendo Switch game, and I'm like, they're cool, especially the Zelda games. I would love to play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I would love to play those games, but I can't. Why? Because they're in a unbearable sub 30 frames per second. I can't do it. I'm one of those weird people that get sick off of less than 30 frames per second. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? But I would love to play those games. So there are stragglers like me that are not part of Nintendo's multifaceted, huge, consumer base. And they have a higher ceiling. All they had to do was increase performance. And they showed people like me that, hey, performance is better. So all those Switch 1 games that you missed are getting enhanced. And you can now play them on the Switch 2. And we even got Switch 2 games that are going to be better. And these are the Nintendo-based games. I'm not really thinking about third-party games, but the Nintendo-based games. These are the Switch 2 games that are going to take advantage of the same performance, and we're going to keep the gravy train running as far as providing you better performance. We found out it had DLSS in it. It's supposed to be 10 times more powerful than the Switch 1 because of that. Yada, yada, yada. All this great stuff, right? So that's what, enticed people like me. And $450, could have been cheaper, but wasn't $500. You know what I'm saying? So I was in for a Switch 2. Then I saw the price ceiling being raised to $80. No, I'm sorry, $90 for games. And I said, no. This won't go because this is going to have an adverse effect on the market. It's not just as simple as me saying, no, I'm not in the market for a Switch 2, or let me see if the games that I want to play are going to be $90 and let me just avoid the $80, $90 games, because I don't feel like any game that's coming out right now is worth $80 or $90. So I'm just like, nah. Instead, it's not as simple as me just saying that. You have to sit back, and I made this plea with people during our NRO podcast. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on the channel. I made this plea with people that you got to look beyond that. You got to look beyond the first 5 minutes to now. You got to be able to see that even if you're not in the market for a Switch, this is going to negatively affect the market. Because Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two and company, are looking at that and they're like, okay, you want to charge up to $90 for Mario Kart World because it has potential wide reach and it's a big game? Well, I tell you what, it doesn't have wider reach, nor is it bigger. nor does it have nowhere near the technology in it of GTA 6. I will see your 90 go up to 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, because of that potentiality, that's going to set off a domino effect in the industry where, Grand Theft Auto is now going to, go anywhere between 80, 90, maybe 100. And then other AAA developers are going to say, well, why shouldn't we? We feel confident in our game too, and it could potentially be as big as Grand Theft Auto. Who knows? You know what I mean? Because investors, and I said this in my podcast, investors are going to look at the people that they're investing in these games and say, well, hold on, you got our dollar, you got us to invest in this project because you're like, because you sold us on how, similar it is, or, the potentiality of it is like a Grand Theft Auto. So if the potential of it is like a Grand Theft Auto, if that's what you sold us on in these meetings, if Grand Theft Auto is 100, why ain't you 100? Well, we're not Grand Theft Auto. Well, maybe I should go over to Take-Two and Grand Theft Auto and invest there. Well, hold on. No. Now that we think about it, you're right. You know what I'm saying? We talk about this in my podcast, in the podcast that I do with your other host, Cold Blood Sensei. Definitely check that out. So there was a lot to think about there. But more importantly, over the weekend, I realized there's an even bigger problem. Let me help you look at it. Let's take a look at it. If it'll let me let you take a look at it. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is an article from Gamer Rant, and it talks about Cyberpunk 2077 details cross progression and performance for Switch 2. Now the cross progression thing is cool, but the Switch, there's other performance things that are interesting. It says Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 will have cross progression, allowing saves between platforms. Performance goals for Switch 2: 1080p docked, 720p handheld, 30 to 40 frames per second. And they said, despite the improvements, some may find it disappointing that a 2020 title runs at 720p on the new console. Okay. And that gives you a peer into the problem. From people that have had their hands on this, we're hearing comparisons to maybe as powerful as the base Xbox One and the base PlayStation 4. Maybe, like, that would be the ceiling for this, right? Maybe the base Xbox One and the base PlayStation 4. Meaning that, even though it's a significant bump up from the Switch 1, and you're going to get better performance, significantly better performance than other Switch games, the games that are on Xbox and on PlayStation, it's not going to handle them so well. It's not even possibly going to handle them as well as the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. And I know people are saying, but Mars, Tears of the Kingdom and so-and-so are going to be 4K 60 on this, and we're using ray tracing and all. Come on, stop it. Do you not think that they couldn't take that same game and put it on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, make it run at 4K 60? Stop. Okay. So, with that said, there you have it. The performance there alone shows you the ceiling that we're dealing with. But that's not even the problem. You want to know what the problem is? Let me show you the problem. It's this game. This, my friends, is Randy Pitchford, founder and president of Gearbox, and he made the announcement during the Switch 2 reveal presentation, rather, not the reveal, Switch 2 presentation that Borderlands 4 is going to release day and date on the Switch 2. That's a problem. No, maybe I got my wires crossed. Did he say day and date, or did he say around the launch or whatever? Still, whatever. That means that it's parallel development. It's being parallel developed with your Xbox Series, your PlayStation 5, and your PlayStation 5 Pro. Why is that a problem? Because that means that this thing is being built from the ground up to cater to a platform that may be as powerful as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Meaning that even though when you get to the end of this video and you see the logos and it doesn't have PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as part of the systems that it's coming to, this is in essence a cross-generation game. Because Nintendo operates like an 8th gen platform. And that has to be taken into consideration for development. See, I come down the middle on this. As much as I attacked the Series S for it holding back 9th generation games, you can't do that and then not look at the Switch. If games are going to be parallel developed for it, you can't look at the Switch and say, but it's not holding back PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Because these aren't Switch versions of games. These are actual ports to be ported to something as capable as a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One. If we're going to take into account what we've been told by many people that have had hands-on with this. So that means, my friends, that we're not going to fully leave the cross-generational phase of this generation if more and more games, if this thing is successful, if the Switch 2 flies off the shelves as well, and developers say, well, you know what? I want to be day one on the Switch 2 as well. That means cross-generation will never go away, and cross-generation will never go away, meaning that game capabilities will be capped even worse than they are on the Series S. And we're going to have to pay more money for those games. I repeat, that means that cross-generation now will never go away, and we got to pay more money for cross-generational games if games are going to be built from the ground up to factor in the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. This is why I made such a big deal about advocating for these Switch prices and saying they're not a big deal. It's bigger than that, even if you're not in the market for a Switch. And I'm hearing arguments about, back in the days when we had to buy cartridges. And remember, I know about that. I talked about when I got Phantasy Star 4 with my cousin, and we played that over the summer and enjoyed it. And that was, up there in price. The cartridge era was a nasty era for buying games. It was the Wild Wild West, but that was a different era. That was like BC. You know what I'm saying? We can't factor, once PlayStation came and made production of games on discs cheaper, and so therefore the Wild Wild West pricing of games had to go away and pricing of games became more stabilized. That no longer mattered. Doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? So we can't use that as a factor because those prices were outrageous, and the outrageousness of those prices were justified due to the cost of production on those cartridges. All right. So this is a different era. We're not in the Old Testament anymore. We're in the New Testament. Okay. We can talk about the Old Testament and learn some things from it, but it ain't got nothing to do with the New Testament. Okay. All right. Sorry to get biblical on you, but here's the thing. What does this mean for us? What does it mean for people like me that bought a PS5 Pro? Even if you have an Xbox Series X, like Xbox isn't going any. I mean, we talk about the fanboy battles back and forth and fanboy fodder, but Xbox is still having games developed for them. They may not be competing with PlayStation all like that, but their games are still being developed there, and there are people that still got their Series X and prefer the game there. What do you feel about your favorite AAA game or big ticket game going the route of Borderlands 4 and doing parallel development. Now, again, I might have my wires crossed. It was probably not going to be day and day, but I'm pretty sure Randy Pitchford said around the same time at launch. So even if it's like a couple of months later, it's still parallel development. It's not like what happened with Hogwarts Legacy, where, the core development is going to happen later after the development on the more capable hardware is done. That's not what's happening here. They're parallel developing. So even if it takes a little bit more time on the less capable hardware, you still had to divide time up to get it to that point. So what do you think about that? And then the game still had to be built based upon the capabilities of its least common denominator. What do you think about that? What if you're an Xbox gamer and you got a Series X and you've realized that you've already been bottlenecked because of the Series S? You've had to deal with some games that launched at 30 frames per second and all this other stuff, right? And then just when you feel like, okay, maybe people are getting a better handle on how to develop for this thing, so we're not penalized as much, and now the Switch 2 comes out and that was pulling you back. How do you feel? Again, if you're like me and you bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, how do you feel? How do you feel to know that there's situations where the scope of games, the ceiling on that scope is going to be lessened now because people are going to want to do what Randy Pitchford did? You know what I mean? I'm like, I look at Borderlands 4 and I'm like, yeah, this looks like previous generations. It's like last generation Borderlands. I don't, they talk about their most ambitious. Is it their most ambitious because the landscape is bigger? I don't see ambition too much in the game, but they still got to present it, but we'll see. But I know whatever ambition that there is, because they did parallel development, they had to cut back. We cannot run that excuse on Xbox because we got to suck it to the bots. No. If you're just a gamer wanting the biggest bang out of your buck, you got to come down the middle on this. We can't just sit there and kick Xbox in the ribs all the time. And Xbox get to kick some ribs in too this time around. Because just when they felt like they were somewhat coming around the corner, coming around the hump, or at least getting a better handle of the handicap of the Series S, now they got to deal with the Switch 2. A lot to think about, a lot to talk about. And we do that. We talk about all this in our member section. So what you're going to want to do is join us, become a member, and check out that discussion where we talk about this in more detail. All right. So again, I did want to make this video, and shout out to my homegirl, Snow Bunny Gaming. Snow Bunny, if you're watching this, I apologize. I didn't want to make this video. I didn't want to make it, but again, I listened to something over the weekend and it made me realize, hold on, this thing could be more systematically a problem than I originally thought. So we at least got to discuss it. What do you guys think? Is this FUD, or am I being hyperbolic? Or is there an issue at hand? Let us know in the comment section below, because like I always say, we're curious what I think. But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. Of course, they will lead you to Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage, and here MM2K Gaming. And stay tuned. If you want to be part of that larger discussion, we're going to show you how to do that right now. Peace. What's up, people? I hope you're enjoying MM2K Gaming news content. You have a possibility to get access to even more great content, and I'm going to show you how very quickly. First and foremost, you're going to want to become a member. And you can become a member at two different levels. You can become a member at the shout out level, which is our $1.99 or $2 tier. And then you can become a member at what we call the Foamy Homie tier, which is at $3.99 or $4, depending upon where you join. So I'm going to show you how you join on YouTube. All you got to do is simply go to join right here. And then you can pick one of the two tiers, the foamed up or the foamy homie tier. And again, the Foamy Homie tier will give you access to everything. Just simply click on that and join and follow the instructions from there. And then you'll get access to our members posts that we place over in the post section, where you'll get access to members content Monday through Friday. All right. And then you'll get other access to streams and things like that. Now, if joining us over here is not your cup of tea, then you can become a Patreon member. Simply go look for MM2K Gaming News at Member Plus. And then what you can do is see the membership options over there. And again, we have two tiers. We have a tier 1 that's similar to the foamed up tier. We got another tier, tier 2 that's similar to the Foamy Homie tier. But here's the crazy thing: as you can see here, those prices are crossed out, and there's even cheaper prices. All through the month of April in 2025, we are giving people access on Patreon 50% off. So you can join us on Patreon, get 50% off your subscription and get access to the same great stuff. Another thing that you can do, another awesome perk, is when you join our Discord, which is in the description below. Join our Discord. You'll also get notifications to when all of this member content goes live. You can go to our special members only notification rooms and you'll get access to the content there. So multiple ways you can join us over at MM2K Gaming News, get access to all the great content Monday through Friday, on top of the stuff that you already enjoy. We thank you again so much for your support. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace.